Did you know that a large number of people who have been victims of narcissistic abuse end up in another toxic relationship later on? Not because they are weak, but because the red flags start so subtly that you only notice them when it's too late. In this episode of our monthly podcast, you'll learn which signals you should never ignore, the early warning signs of narcissistic abuse, so that you can protect yourself and avoid falling into the same trap again. My name is Herman, author and someone with personal experience. I create this podcast together with Tanja. Tanja, it's great to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself to listeners who don't know you yet?
Thank you, Herman. My name is Tanja and I'm a holistic coach specializing in narcissistic abuse. I speak from my own experience and knowledge because I've encountered narcissistic abuse both in my childhood and in my relationships. I know how important it is to recognize red flags early, and I want to share this knowledge to help others. Especially in my relationship with my mother, until 6 years ago, I thought everything was my fault. I even told my husband at the time, "No one can have a relationship with me. Keep that in mind." Luckily, 27 years later, it turned out that things weren't as bad as I thought. During my training to become an effortless coach, where we learned coaching and were coached ourselves, a fellow student recognized narcissism in my mother. I didn't want to believe it because I had never experienced abuse. This student showed me articles and the scales fell from my eyes. I recognized everything. Although I was already far along in my healing process, the real healing only started then. If I had had that knowledge earlier, I wouldn't have waited until I was in my 50s to understand the patterns. I could have protected myself and later my children from her toxic influence.
As always, we also answer a listener question in this episode. Do you have a question? Leave it in the comments. Maybe we'll cover it in the next episode. This month, the question comes from Henry and it's a heavy topic: femicide. Often with femicide, there is a precursor that resembles narcissism, like intimate terror. If you recognize it in time, a lot of femicide could be prevented. I completely agree. When I hear those stories about victims becoming isolated from friends and family, I recognize the patterns of narcissistic abuse in them. Tanja, what's your take on this?
Perhaps not everyone knows what femicide is. Femicide is the deliberate killing of a woman because she is a woman. It often involves ex-partners who, out of loss of control, jealousy, or revenge, murder their wife. This usually happens after a prolonged period of psychological, physical, and/or sexual abuse, also called intimate terror. Intimate terror is essentially a manifestation of pathological narcissism. Someone who is truly connected to themselves and lives in unconditional love would never do such a thing. True love and a desire for control cannot coexist. Yes, I absolutely believe that much femicide can be prevented if we recognize narcissistic patterns earlier.
And it often starts with small signals. Subtle red flags that are easy to miss. Recognizing those early signs can make all the difference. Everyone should know them. What do you think, Tanja?
Absolutely. It's important to mention that it's not just men, women, and anyone in between can also be narcissistic. I experienced this firsthand. I had a narcissistic mother. My mother could sometimes act for weeks, even months, like a normal mother, or at least someone who was trying to be. Yet even then, there was emotional and other forms of neglect. If something unpleasant happened in her life, or if I did something wrong in her eyes, she would give me what I call the icebox treatment. Her tone and attitude became cold, and she would give me the silent treatment. Often, I had no idea what was going on. I just had to sense it. That constant confusion and uncertainty left deep scars. Narcissists and their victims are human too. That means any relationship can become toxic: parents, family members, children, friends, colleagues, romantic partners. Anyone can experience this.
Yes, indeed. As you said, narcissism isn't just something that men exhibit, and anyone can experience it. Yet in discussions about femicide, it's often treated as if it's exclusively a men's issue. But not every man is violent, let alone would harm an ex. The deeper cause often remains overlooked. Narcissism is rarely mentioned in those conversations. Like you, I had a narcissistic mother and later also several toxic girlfriends. One of them even showed very clear signs of narcissistic personality disorder. I met her through a dating app. I fell head over heels and traveled to see her quickly. I soon noticed something strange. If I did something wrong, she would go completely silent. Not a word. For example, we went out to dinner, she couldn't finish her food and I ate it to avoid wasting it. Later, I had a stomachache, but she immediately wanted ice cream. When I said I didn't want ice cream because I wasn't feeling well, she didn't speak to me for the rest of the evening. The classic silent treatment. Tanja, would you call that a first red flag?
The silent treatment is a form of emotional manipulation. Someone suddenly cuts off contact or stops responding without explanation, as a form of punishment. As if you don't exist. As if your presence isn't worth anything. And it gets under your skin. It makes you insecure, small, and dependent. My mother did this for as long as I can remember. It continued into my adult life until I broke off contact. As a child, I did something wrong in her eyes. Often I didn't even know what. And suddenly, there was silence. Days. Weeks. No eye contact. No greeting. Only the bare minimum, like placing food in front of me. What she didn't know is that I sometimes found those periods almost pleasant, because her toxic attention wasn't on me, but it wasn't meant as peace. It was meant to break me. As a child, I always thought, what did I do wrong? I felt invisible and guilty at the same time. As if I had to fix it. And that's exactly the toxicity of it. You learn to overcompensate, always walk on eggshells so you don't lose the other person. If someone punishes you with silence instead of having a conversation, they take away your sense of connection and safety. Especially at the start of a relationship, friendship, or collaboration, it's a warning sign. It's a way to gain control. You do what I want, or I withdraw. Again, this is not exclusive to narcissists. Some people do this because they never learned how to deal with conflict. But if it happens frequently, and you notice it causes confusion, guilt, or insecurity, take it seriously. You deserve relationships where conflict is addressed, not relationships where you are ignored or punished. What makes red flags so hard to recognize? A narcissist doesn't wear it on their forehead. They are often extremely good at keeping up appearances. They know exactly what you need and mirror that. At first, it feels like coming home. The first red flag actually feels like a green flag. Who thinks badly of someone who says, I always want to be with you, or I feel so safe with you? I experienced this myself. A handsome, charming man seemed completely smitten with me, and I barely had any self-esteem at the time. When he acted like he wanted me completely, I was starstruck. He literally rolled out the red carpet for me. When he called and used a pet name for me, I felt special. But in the end, it was all fake. His attention was just a mirror of what he thought I needed. And that mirror broke. It made me realize I had to find my own worth within myself. Lovebombing is common with overt narcissists. But with vulnerable narcissists, it's more subtle. They make you feel like you're the only one who understands them, that you must not leave them. The next man I allowed into my life was far from handsome. I thought, now I've hit the jackpot. Someone who doesn't give me excessive attention but still needs me, But even there, as the relationship progressed, his love wasn't real. It was a smokescreen. A way to make sure I stayed. The first red flag is being overwhelmed with attention or feeling indispensable.
That's how you unconsciously get caught in the cycle of narcissistic abuse.
We are indeed talking about the narcissistic abuse cycle here. Every narcissist goes through it. It's the familiar hot-cold behavior that completely confuses you. There comes a moment, often after you've been hooked, when the behavior completely flips. And the blame for that shift is placed on you. You feel punished for something you did wrong. But as soon as you do it right, again, you're rewarded with kind behavior. That gives a huge dopamine boost, the same happiness hormone released when using, for example, heroin. You literally become addicted to the narcissist's approval. That's a major red flag. The huge swing in behavior, making you feel like you're the cause of their mood swings. We often recognize this kind of abuse too late because it starts so subtly. The abuse cycle usually begins with idealization. Overt narcissists use charm and admiration. Vulnerable narcissists are more reserved and dependent. But the goal is the same: control. Once you reach the devaluation phase, you are slowly broken down, manipulated, and often isolated from your surroundings.
Can you give an example of what isolation looks like?
Yes. In one of my relationships, it started with comments like, "I don't feel comfortable around your friends," or, "Why do you call this person so often? That seems harmless, but if you give in, you gradually build your own prison." Isolation can also happen through character assassination. People around you are labeled as unreliable or bad for you. You feel like only the narcissist truly understands and supports you. For me, parental alienation started early. My mother and my ex-husband tried to turn my children against me. I was portrayed as emotionally unstable, a liar, and a fantasist. When I stood up for myself or expressed my feelings, it was twisted. "Oh dear, there she goes again. My mother told lies about me." And because I had already been labeled a liar, I couldn't defend myself. That sweet grandmother or calm father wouldn't say something like that if it wasn't true. This is my story, but unfortunately it happens more often. When manipulation starts at a young age, children lose access to their own truth. And when you are isolated, there comes a point when you feel alone. Then the narcissist becomes the only safe thing in your life.
Are there any other red flags?
Yes, gaslighting is extremely important. It's twisting your reality. You're certain something happened one way, but the other person denies it or spins it so you start doubting yourself. My mother did this too. She rewrote my memories. If I lent her something and didn't get it back, she denied I ever lent it. Later I would see the item in her house and know I was right. But even then, she kept denying it. It's extremely confusing. Another red flag is emotional blackmail and guilt. Narcissists make you feel like you're the one failing. "If you really loved me, then," or "I'm so disappointed in you." Before you know it, you start changing yourself just to keep them happy. "I did things I would never have done, just to please my mother." That can go very far.
What would you say to someone who doubts whether they are dealing with a narcissist?
If you constantly doubt yourself, feel like you're doing everything wrong, or are exhausted from trying to please someone, those are red flags. Keep track of what happens. Write it down. Watch how the other person reacts when you set a boundary. Is it respected, or are you blamed? Are you ignored or punished without knowing why? Also watch for lovebombing at the start of a relationship. Excessive compliments, gifts, wanting to move in quickly. In romantic relationships, this is often a way to bind you quickly. And watch for the abrupt switch, from intensely loving to distant, critical, or cold. In the end, it's not really about whether you're dealing with a narcissist, but this question: are you being treated the way you deserve?
I can relate. Are there any other signals you notice as red flags?
Yes, there are more. For example, someone constantly turning your emotions around. You're always too sensitive, or having to justify normal things, like a night out by yourself. If someone tries to limit your social circle. If you keep shrinking yourself. Or if you're afraid of your partner's reaction whenever you have your own opinion. That's not love. That's terror. Intimate terror.
And that's exactly what we also see in cases of femicide and domestic violence. It starts with small signals. If we recognized them earlier and took them seriously, so much suffering could be prevented.
That's why we do this. Knowledge is the first step. But then comes the hardest part, taking action. Seeking help. Putting yourself first. And that's scary, especially if you're already hurt. But it is possible.
Well said. We mustn't wait until it escalates. Recognize the pattern. Take the signals seriously. And seek help.
If you exit the cycle early, you can save yourself so much damage, emotionally, psychologically, physically. Maybe even your life.
Believe me, recognizing these signs early can save you not only emotional stress but also financial trouble. The woman I mentioned earlier also cost me a lot of money. But that story is for another podcast, a blog, or maybe even a future book. Do you also have a question you'd like answered in this podcast? Leave it in the comments below. Maybe your question will be featured in the next episode. And don't want to miss anything? Subscribe to this channel, Unmasking Narcissism TV, and click the bell. You'll get a notification every time a new episode goes live. Also, visit our website, www.unmaskingnarcissism.com. There you'll find in-depth articles on narcissism and recovery, as well as our recovery programs. Tanja, I'd like to give you the last word. What would you like to share with our listeners?
Yes, I'd like to add this. You are worth so much more than the approval of a narcissist, or anyone else, for that matter. Believe in yourself. Learn your own strength and value. Discover what kind of partner you truly deserve. And know, you can get through this. Really. Step by step.
Thank you, Tanja. A beautiful and hopeful conclusion. Thank you for watching or listening, and see you next time.
See you next time.